Your exam is trash!" The scream cut through room 214 like a gunshot. Every pencil in the room stopped moving. Maya Thompson looked down at her exam paper. A puddle of water spread across the page, soaking through the ink, turning 3 hours of careful work into a gray, dripping mess. Standing over her, holding an empty water bottle, was Madison Reese. Madison's face was twisted into a smug little smile. "Oops," she said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Guess you'll fail this one." 30 students sat frozen. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. Mr. Dalton, the proctor, looked up from his desk near the front of the room. His eyes went to the puddle, then to Madison, then to Maya. For one long second, it looked like he might actually do something. Then he looked back down at his own paperwork. Maya's hands were shaking. This wasn't just any test. This was the Ohio Merit Scholarship Exam. The one exam that could pay for 4 years of college. The one exam her grandmother had prayed over every single night for a month. And now it was ruined. Madison leaned down, close enough that only Maya could hear her. "You were never supposed to be in this room," she whispered. "This scholarship has always gone to someone like me." Maya looked up at her. She didn't cry. She didn't shout back. She simply picked up her pencil. "Mr. Dalton," Maya said, her voice steady despite the storm inside her chest. "I need a new answer sheet. I'm not finished." Mr. Dalton hesitated, glancing toward the door as if hoping someone else would walk in and make the decision for him. "You have 40 minutes left," he said finally. "That's all I can give you. 40 minutes to redo 3 hours of work, from memory." Nobody in that room, not Madison, not Mr. Dalton, not even Maya herself, had any idea what was about to happen next. Before we continue, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city, state, or country in the comments below. I read as many as I can, and it means a lot to see where this story is reaching. If you enjoy powerful justice stories with unforgettable twists like this one, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us bring you more stories like this one. Now, let's get back to Maya. Maya Thompson was 16 years old, and she had never once been the loudest person in a room. She didn't need to be. She let her work speak for her. She lived with her grandmother, Dorothy Thompson, in a small 2-bedroom house on Cypress Lane in Riverside, Ohio, a quiet working-class town about 40 minutes outside Columbus. Her mother, Angela Thompson, had been a high school English teacher, beloved by her students, known for staying late to tutor kids for free. Angela had died of a sudden heart condition when Maya was 11 years old. After that, Dorothy had raised Maya on her own, working double shifts at the hospital laundry service to keep the lights on. She never complained. She just kept telling Maya the same thing every morning before school. "Your mother believed in you," Dorothy would say, tying a ribbon in Maya's hair. "Now you believe in yourself." Maya carried those words like armor. At Riverside High School, Maya was ranked first in her class of over 300 students. She tutored freshmen in math for free after school. She volunteered at the public library on weekends, reading to kids in the children's section. Teachers described her as humble, disciplined, and fiercely determined. The kind of student who did extra credit not for the grade, but because she genuinely wanted to understand the material. She didn't have many close friends. Her best friend, a soft-spoken boy named Elijah Turner, had known her since 3rd grade. He was the only person who understood how much the scholarship exam actually meant to her, not just as a test, but as a promise she intended to keep to her mother's memory. "You're going to get that scholarship," Elijah told her the night before the exam, as they studied together at the kitchen table. "You've earned every bit of it." Maya smiled, but there was a flicker of worry behind her eyes. "Madison Reese is in my exam room," she said quietly. Elijah's smile faded. "That's not good." "I know," Maya said, "but I can't let her scare me out of trying." Neither of them knew just how far Madison was willing to go. Madison Reese had never once heard the word no in her entire life. Not from her teachers, not from her classmates, and certainly not from her father, Gerald Reese, a powerful member of the Riverside County School Board. Gerald Reese had built his reputation on being the man who got things done for the district. Behind closed doors, that often meant using his influence to smooth over problems that involved his daughter. A failed test became a grading error. A disciplinary report became a misunderstanding. Madison had grown up learning one simple lesson. Rules were for other people. She wasn't unintelligent. In fact, Madison was a strong student, good enough to rank in the top 10 of her class. But being good wasn't enough for Madison. She needed to be first. And for the last 2 years, the only person standing between her and the top spot had been Maya Thompson. It ate at her. Every honor roll ceremony, every academic award. Every time a teacher mentioned Maya's name with pride, Madison felt something twist inside her chest, a hot, ugly jealousy she refused to call by its real name. "She's not even that smart," Madison told her friend Ashley Combs one afternoon in the school parking lot. "She just tries harder, because she has nothing else going on in her life." Ashley laughed along, the way she always did, though something about the comment made her uncomfortable. She'd known Madison since middle school, and lately Madison's jokes about Maya had started to feel less like jokes and more like something darker. The Ohio Merit Scholarship exam was Madison's last chance to finally beat Maya where it mattered most. A state-recognized academic ranking that would follow both girls into college applications. Gerald Reese had made it clear, in his own quiet way, exactly how important this was. "Reese women don't come in second," he told Madison the night before the test, straightening his tie in the hallway mirror. "Whatever it takes." Madison nodded, already turning the words over in her mind, already thinking of room 214, already thinking of Maya sitting 2 rows in front of her with a water bottle sweating condensation onto the corner of her desk. She smiled at her reflection. Whatever it takes. The morning of the exam, room 214 buzzed with quiet, nervous energy. 30 of Riverside High's top students filed in, phones switched off, pencils sharpened, palms sweating. Maya took her seat in the 3rd row. Madison sat 1 row behind her, close enough to see over Maya's shoulder. Mr. Dalton read the instructions in a flat, tired voice. 3 hours, no talking, no leaving the room except for emergencies. Begin. For the first 2 hours and 40 minutes, everything went exactly as it should. Maya worked through the exam with quiet focus. The essay section, the advanced math problems, the reading comprehension passages. She was nearly finished. Just 1 more page. That's when Madison made her move. She'd been holding the water bottle since the exam began, twisting the cap slowly, quietly, loosening it bit by bit under the desk where no one could see. When Mr. Dalton stepped away to check on a student near the back of the room, Madison leaned forward. "Hey, Maya," she whispered. Maya didn't look up. She never took the bait. That silence, that refusal to even acknowledge her, was the final spark. Madison's hand moved before she'd even fully decided to do it. The bottle tipped. Water spread across Maya's paper in an instant, soaking through page after page of careful, hard-won answers. "Your exam is trash!" Madison shouted, loud enough that every head in the room snapped toward them. Gasps rippled through the room. A boy near the window actually stood halfway out of his seat before sitting back down, unsure what to do. Ashley Combs stared at Madison with wide, horrified eyes, her mouth slightly open. Maya looked down at the ruined page. 3 hours of work, gone in 3 seconds. She looked up, not at Madison, but at Mr. Dalton. "I need a new answer sheet," she said. "I'm not finished." The room went dead silent, waiting to see what would happen next. Mr. Dalton's eyes darted toward Madison, then back to Maya. Something in his face shifted. Hesitation, calculation, fear. He knew exactly whose daughter was standing in front of him. "You have 40 minutes," he said. "That's the district rule. I can't give you more. 40 minutes to rebuild 3 hours of work. From memory." While 30 pairs of eyes watched to see if she would break, Maya picked up a fresh answer sheet with hands that had stopped shaking. She began to write. Maya's pencil moved fast, faster than it ever had before. Numbers, equations, essay paragraphs, all of it pulled from memory with a precision that surprised even her. But 40 minutes was not 3 hours, and everyone in that room knew it. With 10 minutes left, she was still 2 full pages behind. Mr. Dalton called time. Maya set down her pencil, her answer sheet only partially complete. She had done everything humanly possible. But it wasn't enough. Not against a clock that had been stolen from her. As students filed out of the room, whispers spread through the hallway like wildfire. By lunchtime, half the school had heard some version of what happened in room 214. But the story that spread wasn't the one Maya expected. "I heard Maya spilled her own water and made a scene," one girl said near the vending machines. "No, I heard she got mad because she was losing and tried to blame Madison," said another. Maya sat alone at her usual lunch table, stunned. Somehow, in less than 2 hours, the story had already been rewritten. And not in her favor. She found Elijah near the library doors after 5th period. "They're saying I did it," Maya said, her voice tight with disbelief. "That I ruined my own test." Elijah's jaw tightened. "Who's saying that?" "Everyone. I think—" Maya paused, connecting the pieces. "I think someone's making sure the story changes before I can even file a complaint." That afternoon, Maya walked into Principal Harold Simmons's office to report exactly what had happened. She described the water bottle, the shouted insult, the witnesses. Principal Simmons listened, nodding along, his expression carefully neutral. When Maya finished, he folded his hands on his desk. "Ms. Thompson, I understand this is upsetting," he said slowly. "But without a witness statement confirming exactly what you're describing, my hands are somewhat tied." "There were 30 witnesses," Maya said. "I'll look into it," Simmons said, in the tone people use when they have no intention of looking into anything. Maya walked out of that office with a cold, sinking feeling. She didn't yet know that Gerald Reese had already called Principal Simmons twice that morning. She only knew that the walls around her seemed to be closing in, and that somewhere in this school, someone was quietly making sure the truth never saw daylight. Little did Maya know, someone in that exam room had seen everything, and had already begun writing it all down. What Maya didn't know was that room 214 had one more occupant that morning. A quiet woman sitting in the far back corner, dressed plainly, introduced to the class only as an observer from the state testing office. Her name was never announced in full. Students barely noticed her. She hadn't spoken a single word during the entire exam. But she had seen everything. She had watched Madison loosen the cap beneath her desk. She had watched the water spread across Maya's paper. She had watched Mr. Dalton's hesitation, the way his eyes flicked toward Madison before he decided how to respond. And she had written every second of it down in a small leather notebook she kept in her coat pocket, along with something else. A small recording device, standard equipment for state exam monitors assigned to review testing integrity across the district. She hadn't stepped in during the exam. Protocol required observers to remain silent unless student safety was at risk, but protocol did not require her to stay silent forever. That evening, she sat in her car outside a quiet coffee shop on the edge of Riverside, reviewing her notes under the dome light. She had monitored exams across 6 different school districts that year. She had seen cheating. She had seen unfair proctors. but she had never seen anything quite like what she'd witnessed in room 214. She picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in years. "It's me," she said when the call connected. "I think you're going to want to see something I recorded today." On the other end of the line, a voice she trusted more than almost anyone in the state education system went quiet for a long moment. "Send it over," the voice said. "And don't let anyone at that school know you have it. Not yet." The observer closed her notebook. Something was about to change in Riverside. But not yet. Not until the moment would matter most. 2 days later, Maya was called into Principal Simmons's office again. But this time, she wasn't the one being asked questions. She was the one being accused. "There's been a complaint," Simmons said, sliding a paper across his desk. "A parent has raised concerns that you disrupted testing conditions for other students during the exam." Maya stared at the paper. It was a formal complaint, typed and signed, alleging that Maya had created a disturbance during the exam by shouting and gesturing, a complete reversal of what had actually happened. "That's not true," Maya said. "Madison poured water on my test. I didn't shout anything. I asked for a new answer sheet." "I understand that's your account," Simmons said carefully. "But given the seriousness of this complaint, the district may need to invalidate your exam results pending review." The room seemed to tilt beneath Maya's feet. Invalidated. Not failed. Erased entirely, as though she'd never taken it at all. That night, Maya sat at her kitchen table staring at her half-eaten dinner while Dorothy watched her with worried eyes. "They're trying to make it disappear," Maya said quietly, "like it never happened." Dorothy reached across the table and took her hand. "Baby, sometimes the people with the most power make the most noise to hide the truth. But noise isn't proof. And you have the truth on your side." The next day brought a fresh betrayal. Ashley Combs, the one person Maya thought might finally speak up, was called into the same office. When Maya passed her in the hallway afterward, Ashley wouldn't meet her eyes. "Ashley," Maya said gently, "did they ask you what happened in the room?" Ashley's hands were trembling. I said I wasn't sure what I saw," she whispered. "Madison's dad is on the school board, Maya. My mom works for the district. I can't—" She hurried away before Maya could respond. Maya stood alone in the hallway, watching the one witness who might have helped her disappear around the corner. For the first time since the exam, she felt truly, completely alone. But somewhere across town, a small leather notebook and a recorded file were already sitting on a desk that belonged to someone with far more power than Gerald Reese had ever imagined. That night, unable to sleep, Maya sat on the edge of her bed holding a photograph of her mother. Angela Thompson had been a teacher for 18 years before she passed. She taught English at Riverside Middle School, the same building where Maya had once been a student. Former students still stopped Dorothy in the grocery store to say how much Ms. Thompson had changed their lives, how she stayed after school for free tutoring, how she bought notebooks and pencils out of her own paycheck for kids who couldn't afford them, how she never once gave up on a struggling student. Maya remembered sitting at their old kitchen table as a little girl, watching her mother grade papers late into the night, humming softly to herself. "Why do you work so hard for kids who aren't even yours?" young Maya had once asked. Her mother had smiled and said, "Every child deserves someone who believes they can do something great. Sometimes I'm the only person who tells them that, so I make sure I say it." When Angela died suddenly, the entire town of Riverside had shown up for her funeral. Teachers, former students, neighbors, people Maya had never even met. It was the first time Maya truly understood how much impact one determined person could have on so many lives. Since then, the scholarship exam had become something bigger than a test in Maya's mind. It wasn't just about paying for college. It was about proving that her mother's belief in her had been worth something. It was about honoring a woman who had given everything she had to lift other people up, even when nobody was watching. Dorothy had taken on extra shifts at the hospital laundry service just to help pay application fees for other scholarships, just in case. She never once suggested that Maya give up. "Your mother didn't raise a quitter," Dorothy told her one evening, folding laundry at their kitchen table. "And neither did I." Maya wiped her eyes and looked at her mother's photograph one more time. "I'm not done fighting," she whispered. "Not yet." Somewhere out there, a piece of evidence was waiting to prove she'd never needed to give up at all. The following week, small pieces of information began quietly surfacing. Fragments that, on their own, meant little, but together were starting to form a picture no one at Riverside High could ignore. First, a substitute teacher who had covered Mr. Dalton's class the day after the exam mentioned, almost in passing, that Mr. Dalton had seemed unusually nervous, repeatedly checking his phone for messages from an unknown number. Then, a janitor sweeping room 214 after hours found an empty water bottle wedged behind a radiator. The same brand Madison had been holding that morning, still bearing a faint fingerprint smudge on the label. Then came the biggest surprise of all. Elijah, digging through the district's public testing calendar out of pure curiosity, discovered a listing confirming that every scholarship exam site in the county had been assigned an independent state observer that year. A new anti-cheating measure quietly rolled out after testing scandals in a neighboring district the year before. "Maya," Elijah said, showing her the listing on his laptop screen at the library. "There was someone else in that room, an official observer, someone from the state." Maya's heart began to race. "Do you know who?" "No name listed," Elijah said. "But if there really was an observer in room 214, they would have seen everything that happened." That evening, Maya worked up the courage to email the Ohio Department of Education's Testing Integrity Office, describing exactly what had happened and asking whether an observer had been present in room 214 on the day of the exam. 3 days passed with no response. On the fourth day, Maya's phone rang from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Is this Maya Thompson?" a calm, unfamiliar voice asked. "Yes," Maya said carefully. "My name is Patricia Alvarez. I'm a testing integrity officer with the Ohio Department of Education." The woman paused. "I was in room 214 on the day of your exam. And Maya, I saw everything that happened." Maya's breath caught in her throat. "I need you to trust me for just a little longer," Patricia said. "Because what I have is about to change everything. But it needs to be revealed at exactly the right moment, in front of exactly the right people." Maya gripped the phone tightly. "What moment is that?" Patricia's voice was steady, almost calm in a way that gave Maya chills. "The school board's public hearing on your case, this Thursday. Be there." Thursday night, the Riverside County School Board meeting room was packed. Word had spread fast. A scholarship dispute involving a school board member's daughter had drawn parents, teachers, students, and even a local news reporter with a small camera crew set up near the back wall. Gerald Reese sat near the front, composed and confident, occasionally leaning over to whisper something to Principal Simmons. Madison sat beside her father, arms crossed, wearing the same smug expression she'd worn in room 214. Maya sat with Dorothy and Elijah near the middle of the room, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The board chairwoman called the meeting to order. "We're here to review a formal complaint regarding testing conduct and a request to invalidate the exam results of student Maya Thompson." Gerald Reese stood immediately. "This has already dragged on far too long. My daughter has been unfairly accused based on hearsay from a single student with an obvious grudge against her academic ranking." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Maya felt her stomach tighten. "If I may," a calm voice said from the back of the room. Every head turned. Patricia Alvarez stood, holding a small leather notebook and a laptop bag. "My name is Patricia Alvarez," she said, walking to the front of the room. "I am an independent testing integrity observer assigned by the Ohio Department of Education to room 214 on the day in question. I was present, silent, and unnoticed, exactly as protocol requires, until now." Gerald Reese's confident expression flickered for the first time. Patricia opened her laptop and connected it to the room's projector. "What you are about to see was recorded in accordance with state testing integrity procedures." The screen lit up, and the room went completely silent. The recording began quietly, the sound of pencils scratching against paper. Then, clear as day, Madison's voice. "Hey, Maya!" A pause. Then the sound of a bottle tipping, water spreading. And finally, unmistakably, loudly, Madison's own voice ringing through the recording. "Your exam is trash!" Gasps erupted across the room. Several parents covered their mouths. A reporter in the back row began typing furiously on her phone. Madison's face went pale. Gerald Reese stood frozen, his mouth slightly open, as though the ground beneath him had just disappeared. "There is more," Patricia said calmly, clicking to the next slide. A time-stamped record showing 2 phone calls placed from Gerald Reese's cell phone to Principal Simmons's office on the morning of the initial complaint, and a formal statement from Ashley Combs, submitted confidentially to the state office days earlier, describing the pressure she'd felt to change her account of events. The entire room turned to look at Gerald Reese. For the first time in his life, he had absolutely nothing to say. The chairwoman banged her gavel to restore order, though it took nearly a full minute for the room to settle. "Mr. Reese," she said, her voice sharp with authority, "you will remain seated and silent while this board reviews the evidence presented." Gerald Reese sank back into his chair, his face ashen. Patricia Alvarez continued. "Beyond the recorded incident, my investigation confirmed that Maya Thompson's exam results were unfairly compromised, through no fault of her own, that Mr. Dalton failed to follow proper proctoring procedures by not immediately reporting the incident, and that pressure was applied to at least one student witness to alter her account." The chairwoman turned to Maya. "Ms. Thompson, would you like to address the board?" Maya stood slowly, her legs unsteady beneath her, but her voice came out clear and strong. "I didn't ask for any of this," she said. "I just wanted to take my exam fairly, like everyone else in that room. I lost 3 hours of work in 3 seconds, and I still tried to finish, because giving up was never an option my mother raised me to consider." She paused, looking directly at Madison. "I don't need anyone to lose for me to win. I just needed the truth to be told." The room erupted into applause. Even the reporter in the back lowered her phone for a moment, visibly moved. The chairwoman called for a vote. Within minutes, the board unanimously ruled to fully reinstate Maya's original exam attempt, awarding her the additional 40 minutes that had been unfairly taken, based on Patricia's official recommendation and recorded evidence. A separate emergency review board would reassess her partial answers, alongside her original completed work, and, given the astonishing accuracy of what she'd rewritten, entirely from memory, her final composite score came back only days later. A perfect score, not a single point lost. Gerald Reese was suspended from the school board pending a formal ethics investigation into abuse of influence and witness tampering. Madison was placed on academic and disciplinary probation, her scholarship eligibility revoked for the year, with mandatory counseling and a formal apology requirement. Mr. Dalton was removed from proctoring duties and placed under review for failing to report the incident. As the meeting adjourned, Dorothy wrapped her arms around Maya, tears streaming down both their faces. "Your mother would be so proud of you," Dorothy whispered. Across the room, Madison sat alone, her father already gone, her friends nowhere to be seen. For the first time, she understood what it felt like to lose everything that had once come so easily. 3 weeks later, Riverside High School held its annual Academic Honors Assembly. Maya walked across the stage to accept not only her perfect exam score certificate, but also the district's newly created Integrity in Education Award, established specifically in response to what the school board now called the Room 214. Photo incident. Patricia Alvarez attended the ceremony, sitting quietly near the back, exactly where she'd sat the day everything began. When Maya spotted her afterward, she walked over and hugged her. "Thank you," Maya said, "for seeing the truth, and for waiting until it would matter most." "You did the hard part," Patricia said, smiling. "You kept writing even when it felt hopeless. That's rare at any age." Ashley Combs approached Maya after the ceremony too, her eyes red from crying. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I should have told the truth from the beginning." Maya considered her for a long moment, then nodded. "You told it when it mattered. That counts for something." Elijah met Maya by the school's front steps, grinning from ear to ear. "Perfect score," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. "From memory. You're unbelievable." Maya laughed, the sound light and free for the first time in weeks. "I had a good reason to remember every word." That evening, Maya sat at her kitchen table with Dorothy, looking at the acceptance letter that had arrived that afternoon. Full scholarship, tuition, and housing covered, to the university program she'd dreamed about since middle school. Dorothy held the letter with trembling hands, reading it 3 times over. "Your mother is smiling somewhere tonight," she said softly. Maya looked at the photograph of her mother still sitting on the shelf above the table. "I know she is," Maya whispered. "I finally finished what I started." Outside, the riverside sky had turned a soft shade of gold, the kind of evening that felt like the closing of one chapter and the quiet, hopeful beginning of another. So, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your city, state, or country in the comments below. I read every single one I can. And tell me, what was your favorite moment in Maya's story? Was it the moment she picked up her pencil after everything was ruined? Or the moment the truth finally came out in that school board meeting? Would you have kept fighting the way Maya did, even when everyone around her tried to silence the truth? If this story moved you, do me a favor. Hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It helps us keep bringing you powerful, unforgettable stories just like this one. See you in the next story.